Ladies and gentlemen, we are back here with another video. Going down this weekend, UFC Serbia. We got up here is the main event, Uros Medić versus Daniel Rodriguez. And overall, I actually love this card. I know some guys are actually hating on this card, but I actually love some of these fights. Uros Medić and Daniel Rodriguez may not be the best main event of the year, but I kind of can see this fight going either way, if that makes sense to some of you guys. The co-main event is Jan Blachowicz versus Navajo Sterling. I think this is a pretty sick fight between two pretty good kickboxers. Martin Tybura and Rakic making his heavyweight debut. Banger fight. Dasko Chardovic versus Robert Valentin. Not the best fight, but it's a pretty interesting fight. Chepo versus Yabrina. I think that's a okay fight. This fight right here, Janičić and Gugnon, it's going to be a pretty fun fight. And Ludovit, Klein, Tofiq, Musayev, the featured prelim. I think these are all some sick fights in their ways. Um, yeah, we're going to get to all of these fights, predict all of them from top to bottom. But before we get any further into the video, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. Turn on notifications when you guys want to see when I upload new videos. Comment down below who you guys got winning for these fights, specifically the main event. If you guys don't know some of these fights, we are going to get into the predictions here. First, in the women's strawweight division is Maria Spasić versus Stephanie Luciano. Now, this is an interesting fight. Stephanie Luciano, for what I've seen from her outside of the original scene, she beat Kyron Aldrid, made her got the call in the contender series, had a draw with Elcar, then rematched her and won against Elcar, lost to Sam Hughes, which I think is a decent loss. Sometimes Sam Hughes is sometimes good, sometimes has a downfall, not bad. Made her return beating Ravena Oliveira, which may not seem like the best win because Ravena Oliveira has good jiu-jitsu, but she's not the greatest striker. Is a decent fighter overall, but but that was a pretty good bounce back after losing a close fight with Sam Hughes. For Miranda Spacek, we look at her last 5 fights. On the original scene, she looked like a killer, man. Look at these brutal knockouts here. Did lose this fight to Mariah Merchuk, which was not bad. Made her bounce back with a nasty body shot win, beating Samara Santos, which has some MMA experience. So this is a pretty tough fight because on the feet is for what we've seen that Spacek is the better fighter on the feet, but I think she hasn't been tested with the grappling yet. But I will say I think Stephanie Luciano's strike has definitely improved. Is it good? But is her? But has she improved enough where she could beat Spacek on the feet? I don't necessarily think so, especially what we just saw what Miranda Spacek could do. And I think her only decision win was back in like early of 2023. So it's been about 3 years since she's had a fight go the distance. And I think she could definitely be a problem here for Stephanie Luciano because if we do look back at her fight with Sam Hughes, Sam Hughes definitely was putting the striking pressure on her, exactly what Sam Hughes does majority of the time. But I think she definitely has improved from that loss, even that draw with Elcar, which could have gone, there's an argument where it could have not been a draw, but even Elcar, and which Elcar isn't really the greatest striker, as we saw in her fight with Julia Perostri. Um, she did get clipped with some combos by Elcar, but I think she's improving. Is she gonna be like a huge prospect for the division? Maybe that could definitely be a possibility. But I don't think that she should. But I think that a few things that Stephanie Luciano needs to do coming into this fight is that she needs to put the pressure, to put the grappling pressure on Mariah Spacek. Because, like I said, Mariah Spacek like I said, the grappling hasn't been tested for Miranda Spacek. And yeah, this is honestly a very tough fight to predict. But I'm going to favor Stephanie Luciano. I think Stephanie Luciano gets the decision here. I think as long as she keeps the fight on the ground, which I think she's going to most likely do, if she did that in a fight with Ravena Oliveira, she has to lose in this fight with Mariah Spacek. Because Mariah Spacek, if she doesn't take this fight to the ground, it's definitely going to be a big problem here. And Mariah Spacek, if it's fight also And she can't shoot no predictable takedowns on Marina Spasić because Marina Spasić is just gonna come with a nasty uppercut. And I think the longer this fight stays on the feet, I think the quicker she's gonna get knocked out by Marina Spasić. But I'm gonna go with Stephanie Luciano. Yeah, so I think probably the early rounds where it's going to be a struggle for Stephanie Luciano. I think eventually she's going to take this fight to the ground. I got Stephanie Luciano winning this one by a decision. Next up here in the heavyweight division is Jovan Leka versus Alessandro Poppeck. Now, this is a pretty interesting fight. Poppeck taking this fight on short notice. It was really supposed to be Max Gimis, which I was going to favor Max Gimis to knock out Leka. But this is also an interesting fight because Poppeck, man, his last 5 fights, he had his no contest, where it was a legal knee, went on a 4-fight winning streak with he won his fight with a nasty right hook. Came in and beat this David Hosa guy, which was pretty decent. Showed his grappling here against Samuel Cosavera, Thomas Cornix, where he won a pretty decision. If I'm not mistaken, this is Poppeck's debut at heavyweight. And the thing is, man, I don't know how much. I think this fight depends on how we see at the scale. Because Leka, man, he's a pretty huge guy. He beat this Thiago Alonso guy. Went in and beat Giannoli. Won the contender series fight, which he didn't get the UFC contract. I think it was a decision. But then went on a nice impressive one, beating Charlie Millen, and most recently taking out Dinano Sartes. And I'm actually going to favorite Leka here. I think he's going to get the 3rd round knockout. Listen, I don't know if a lot of you guys remember, but Poppeck, man, he fought Jamal Hill a while back. It was on the contender series, actually. So he's had some slight experience with the contender series, but so has he. I think that Poppeck definitely did a better job on the contender series than what Leka did. But I think Leka's still improving, man. I just think that Max Gimis was just going to be a stylistically bad matchup. The guy has nasty kicks. But against a guy who's kind of pretty technical on the feet and making his light heavyweight debut, his heavyweight debut on short notice, I definitely think it's going to be a lot of trouble here. I'm going with Leka to win this one by knockout. So I got Leka winning this one by knockout. Next up, in the women's bantamweight division, Nina Milosevic versus Hailey Cowan. Give me Milosevic to win this one by decision. She is easily going to beat Hailey Cowan. Listen, Hailey Cowan isn't the greatest fighter at all, but she has lost to the worst competition. Out on the original scene, she was pretty decent, getting the submission win, having this close fight against Claudita Letty on the contender series. And then went on a 3-fight losing streak. Losing to Jamie Lynn Horth, which isn't bad. Jamie Lynn Horth does have a lot of power in her hands. Getting submitted by Nora Carlene, which isn't bad either. Most recently getting submitted by Alex Pereira. Listen, she's not UFC material. I'm honestly kind of shocked that she's still in the UFC. I think she's going to lose to Milosevic and get cut from the UFC. I don't see Hailey Cowan being in the UFC for long. Give me Nina to win this one by decision. Next up, in the lightweight division, we got up here Mateusz Rebecki taking on Kyle Prepolec, if I said that correctly. This is a banger matchup. I know a lot of you guys are going to be favoriting Mateusz Rebecki over Kyle Prepolec just because Kyle is 0-4 in the UFC. But, like, I know he had 2 fights in the UFC before he was cut. Then went on a nice winning streak. Beating Marco Albedo, Josh Henry, Gustavano Uzuri, and then he got the short notice call from the UFC against BSD. I know BSD just lost to Paddy Pimblett, but that's not a bad loss at all, knowing that it was on short notice. Then had a banger matchup with Drew Doper, and Drew Doper is a well-experienced UFC veteran. Just beat another UFC vet, Michael Johnson, at UFC 326. So, not bad at all. And then we look at Mateusz Rebecki losing to Diego Ferreira. And I still don't know how the heck he done this, beating Machechik Orbao. And Machechik Orbao, one of the best prospects right now. then losing to Chris Duncan, losing to Ludovit Klein, most recently losing to Grant Dawson. And listen, I know I predicted Mateusz Rebecki to beat Grant Dawson, but I think he didn't have a good game plan, man. He kept shooting takedowns on Grant Dawson, where you could have just knocked him out cold on the feet instead. But but instead you choose to land takedowns on a guy who's the better wrestler. And listen, man, he didn't do bad though. He did get some top control against Grant Dawson, so his wrestling's definitely improved. But I think it's a tough matchup because Kyle Prepolec, man, he does know how to time his shots pretty well. He does have pretty good takedown defense. He definitely gave BSD some trouble with stuffing those takedowns. But I know a lot of you guys do call BSD overrated, but it's like he's still good. You know, he's just good. But I just feel like there's a lot of exposingness to his style, though. It's just what gets him caught in the submissions or just gets beaten up and gets knocked down. But he's still a good fighter. BSD is still a good fighter. Mateusz Rebecki, man, he's 1-4 in his last 5, beating Milosevic Orbau in a close fight. But yet again, I think Milosevic Orbau is a bit better at 155. But a few things that I see happening in this fight. I think Kyle Prepolec needs to try and not brawl early on into the fight. Cause listen, man, if Kyle Prepolec, man, I know Kyle Prepolec does like that, that fun, that make the fights pretty entertaining, especially that he's not looking too good. I think he's gonna try and make it an entertaining fight, even though he's not looking. Cause why else would you not try to make it a competitive fight, knowing that you're 0-4, and it looks like if you lose this fight, you're gonna get cut from the UFC. I get it, but like, if you kind of just, what do you call it? I feel like if Kyle Prepolec can keep the range, move out of those big exchanges, and start and wait until he gasses out to go for the kill, then I feel like that's what Kyle Prepolec should do coming into this fight. Because we have seen a bunch of times before Mateusz Rebecki definitely loses a lot of fights because he ggets pretty tired, which may seem like his last 2 fights against Chris Duncan and Ludovit Klein before the Grant Dawson fight, that he had a possibility of winning the fight, but yet again he gets tired towards the later rounds, and we even saw that a lot in that Ludovit Klein fight. Towards like that 3rd round, he got very gassed. I think one thing that Rebecki just needs better of is cardio. And I think so same here for Drew Dober though. Because Drew Dober, when he's in these entertaining fights, he tends to tire out. We saw that in his fight with Drew Dober, and that was the reason how he got knocked out in that 3rd round, because he got pretty tired. And honestly, man, Kyle Prepolec did way better than what I thought he was going to do against Drew Dober, because I thought he was just going to get knocked out cold. But I definitely can see the turn out to be a very fun fight. But I think that would just be very bad for Kyle Prepolec, because I think Kyle Prepolec definitely has the worse cardio than Mateusz Rebecki. But I feel like if both fighters get their cardio better up in this fight, I think this is going to be an entertaining fight all night. But who do I got winning this fight, man? I'm going to go with Mateusz Rebecki on this one, guys. I just think that he's fought the more tougher opponents. I think he's going to be more pressuring Kyle Prepolec. I don't think Kyle Prepolec is going to be able to get out of those big exchanges coming into this fight. Kyle Prepolec needs, when he sees Mateusz Rebecki walking in, try and clip him with some nice counter shots. But that's the way I can see Kyle Prepolec winning this fight. But I'm going to go with Mateusz Rebecki. I think Mateusz Rebecki is just a dog. Give me Mateusz Rebecki to win this one by decision. So, like I said, I got Mateusz Rebecki winning this one by decision. That's who I got, Mateusz Rebecki, to probably maybe a split or just a pretty competitive unanimous decision. Next up, in the featherweight division, Bogdan Grad versus Denis Buzukja. Now, this is an interesting fight between 2 fighters who are legit cans. If you look at Denis Buzukja's last 5 fights, he lost to Sean Woodson, which isn't bad. Sean Woodson's pretty long-rangey on the feet. It has some decent fight IQ. Then lost Jamal Emmers, which isn't bad. Beating Connor Matthews, which was a pretty clean punch right there. That was a nasty left hook, but Connor Matthews isn't really like UFC material. Having a close loss to Francis Marshall, which isn't bad because I think Francis Marshall, in my opinion, is one of the um best prospects at 145. Most recently losing to Marco Barboza, which man, that was nasty, man. I thought they were gonna cut Danny Bucheca right then and there, but we got Bogdan Grad, who's also a can, beating this Bautista guy. Then then beating Michael Aswell Jr. on the Contender Series in a very close fight. And I know Michael Aswell lost to Gaston Balanis, but that was a huge robbery and that was a pretty big win. Beating Lucas Alexandre, which isn't bad either. Taking out losing to Muhammad Naivov, which Muhammad Naivov is pretty good has pretty good grappling, decent fighter on the feet. Most recently losing to Luke Riley. We just saw Luke Riley knock out Kai Kamaka in the first round, and he did pretty good. And Bogdan Grad did pretty good in that fight. He definitely did good using those takedowns for a little bit, but eventually, he just got caught from Luke Riley in that fight. But I think this is definitely a winnable fight for both fighters. I know Dennis Bucheca, you guys can say he's pretty chinny, but he only got knocked out by Jamal Emmers, who's, like I said, crafty vet, does know how to scrap. And Marcio Barboza, which Barboza is just a nasty knockout artist. So he's only been losing to guys who hit pretty hard. He lost to Sean Woodson, which Sean Woodson doesn't, once you just put him in those matchups where they have a lot of knockouts on the record, it kind of like he just gets knocked out pretty quickly, but that's all right, man, because when you face knockout artists, the majority of the time you're getting knocked out. But a few ways I see Denis Bucheca winning this fight is that he's got to attack that body early, man. Like I said, that left hook is something that he has very well, so he needs to set up the combinations, finish him on with a left hook early on in the fight, land the knees to the body, I try and stuff those takedowns. Cause I think Bogdan Grad is the better grappler than Denis Bucheca. I just think that Denis Bucheca does know how to defend the takedowns. He managed to defend some of those takedowns against Francis Marshall. Francis Marshall's a pretty good grappler. Honestly, a better grappler than Bogdan Grad. And Bogdan Grad, man, I think he needs to try and get him out early. I think the longer the fight goes, definitely I think Bogdan Grad will start to wear down. We saw that in his fight with Michael Aswell. Saw that in his fight with Muhammad Naivov when Muhammad Naivov started winning the fight. One thing that I've definitely seen from Denis Bucheca that he does throw some very nasty elbows, where I could definitely see that being a pretty big problem for Bogdan Grad coming into this fight. And Bogdan Grad, I just think that Bogdan Grad does have some pretty good power in his hands. I think it's a 50-50 fight, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to side here with Bogdan Grad. I think Bogdan Grad is going to get the second round knockout here. I think the first round, I definitely think it's going to be quite some trouble for Bogdan Grad. I think in that second round, he's going to come out there pretty fast. He's going to definitely throw some heavy shots at Denis Bucheca. I don't know if Denis Bucheca is going to be able to handle those in that second round. I think it's gonna be a pretty fun fight while it lasts. I'm going with Bogdan Grad by knockout. So that's why I got winning Bogdan Grad by knockout. Next up here, Mark Vologdin versus Margashev Nikolić. To be very clear, I don't know much footage of him. From what we've seen is that he has 77% of beating Mark Vologdin. I don't really know too much about him. I guess I'm going with a decision here for Mark Vologdin, but I really got no idea who the heck this man is. Nor have I really seen his resume. His last 5 fights, he's looking pretty good, finishing all of his last 5 opponents. Could definitely be some trouble here for Mark Vologdin for all I know. But I'm going to go with Mark Vologdin, man. I really, like I said, don't really know much about the guy. Give me Mark Vologdin by decision. And Mark Vologdin just had a pretty close fight with John Castaneda, which I thought John Castaneda won. But, because of the low blows, Mark Vologdin it ended up being a draw, which was a pretty fun fight. So I got Mark Vologdin winning this one by decision. Next up here in the welterweight division, we have up here is Michael Oliveira making his debut against Oban Elliott. I actually think it's a pretty interesting fight. Oban Elliott, he's a pretty decent fighter. Won against Vail Woodburn, beating Preston Pearson is not bad. Brazil Havzin, who I think he fought JDM was the former welterweight champion. When I had 2-fight losing streak, losing to the Korean Tyson, which I know the Korean Tyson just lost to JPL, which was a pretty close fight, but that's still a good loss. Most recently losing to Jonathan McCall. Jonathan McCall, one of the best prospects in the welterweight division. Michael Oliveira, for what I've seen, he comes from the LFA, and I've already said a lot of things about the fighters who come from the LFA, that they're very good. It's either a hit or a miss. You'll never know what you expect from fighters coming from the LFA. Meeting Francisco Albedo, Eduardo Elcar, Dallas Gama, Aldo Pereira, had that contender series fight beating Victor Ortiz and knocking him out. And that was a big win. I know Victor Ortiz just made his debut, beating Max Gimis in a pretty competitive fight. But Victor Ortiz, man, he's a vicious monster, man. Has a lot of knockouts on his resume. And I think that was just an interesting contender series fight overall, because they're both very good knockout artists. But the thing is, man, I think this fight was about almost a year ago. But I don't know where Michael Oliveira has been, but I'm excited to see him make his debut. I think he's a very good striker. He has a lot of knockouts on his resume, and I don't know. And the guy has no decision wins on his resume at all. If you guys check his resume on Tapology, the man has a 100% knockout rate. And listen, a lot of people think that if it goes the distance, I think if the longer the fight is, Oban Elliott would definitely have a lot of success. But I don't think so, man. I think his cardio is going to be very good enough. He's a huge guy for 170. And I just think that stylistically, this is just going to be a very bad matchup for Oban Elliott. I'm going to go with Michael Oliveira to win this one by the third round. I think the first round, I think that's when he's going to try and read Oban Elliott. I think that's when Oban Elliott's going to have the success. I think after that, Oban Elliott's just going to get absolutely molded through, man. I think, I think Oban Elliott, I think the name, the Welsh gangster, comes from, he's just a tough guy, man. It's hard to knock him out. The Korean Tyson gave him some trouble. He managed to survive all those shots, man. I think Oban Elliott definitely, like I said, he give Michael Oliveira some trouble. But I think Michael Oliveira is just going to be too good for Oban Elliott towards the later of this fight. Give me Michael Oliveira by knockout. Next up here, our featured bout of the night, a banger fight. Ludovit Klein versus Tofiq Musayev. This is going to be a banger, man. And Tofiq Musayev, looking at his last 5 fights, he came from Bellator, beating Alexandre Sabili. Then had a few fights at Ryzen, beating Akara Okado and Toji Kamita. And listen, he was outside of the UFC. I was a huge fan of Tofiq Musayev. Tofiq Musayev looked like a very good fighter outside of the UFC. Then made his debut, had a bad win over Musayev Orbal, which, Musayev Orbal being one of the best prospects, and he moved up a whole nother weight class for that fight. I'm not mad at that. Won his first fight at lightweight, beating Ignatius Bahamondes, which, I thought that was rigged, bro. Listen, I thought he won, but man, that nasty headbutt that happened in that fight, bro, was just mad dirty, man. I don't know why the referee didn't stop. I think that's what kind of affected Bahamondes in the fight. I still think that Tofiq Musayev was doing good in that fight, but I think it was definitely a little bit more easier once that big headbutt happened, because Ignatius Bahamondes was having a lot of struggles. Ludovit Klein, man, he's been one of my favorite prospects in this entire UFC division. Beating AJ Cunningham, beating Thiago Moises, which is a pretty good win, beating Vet Roberts, getting dominated by Matias Gamrot. Matias Gamrot being one of the best lightweights in the world, making his comeback, beating Matias Rebecki, which was a very good win. I think this could also be fight of the night. I think fight of the night could definitely be between this fight or Matias Rebecki and Kyle Prepolec. So it's gonna. But a few things that I've seen from Tofiq Musayev. Tofiq Musayev is a very good, underrated boxer with a good grappling base. And listen, don't listen, man. Like, besides that, I think even without the headbutt, I still think he would have beaten Inocios Bahamondes. Even though I predicted Inocios Bahamondes to beat Tofiq Musayev. I get it, but I just think Tofiq Musayev's boxing was looking very good. Honestly, I just think that stylistically, moving up to 170 to fight Machechik Orbal, who's probably the best welterweight prospect right now, I just think that, that was just a bad idea. Other than that, I think he could definitely do a very good job coming into this fight. But even throughout that fight with Bahamondes was definitely giving him struggles, especially on the outside. And Ludovit Klein is very good at when he is, besides that fight with Mateusz Gamrot, as of recently, he's very good at keeping the distance. I know Mateusz Gamrot, he didn't have that much success, but that was because Mateusz Gamrot is such a good underrated grappler that it was just stylistically a bad matchup for him. And we just saw what he just did to Esteban Rigovic, man. Esteban Rigovic didn't do any better. If not, probably did worse. Tofiq Musayev, man, I could definitely see him giving him. I think he's the better grappler in this fight against Ludovit Klein. I think that Ludovit Klein, I think both fighters on the feet in general is just too good. I'm very excited for this fight. I think the winner of this fight should get somebody in the top 15. Both fighters, I think, have been deserving of it. A few things that I see needed to do is that Tofiq Musayev, I think he should definitely use that boxing, mix it up with the wrestling coming into this fight. Ludovit Klein, I think that Ludovit Klein just needs to keep this at the distance, use those calf kicks to slow down the combinations of Tofiq Musayev early on in this fight. Land those kicks to the body, calf kicks, try and land some nice counter shots that would definitely back up Tofiq Musayev into this fight. This fight could go either way, guys. I am very excited for this fight. Like I said, both fighters are good strikers. Both fighters are pretty good grapplers. Who am I going to favor to win this fight? Man, I don't know, man. Because like I said, Ludovit Klein, man, he's good with keeping the distance. But Tofiq Musayev, man, he's good with that boxing. He knows how to close the distance pretty well. And what we saw in this fight with Mateusz Rebecki, that early on in that fight, he was definitely a bit of a struggle here. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pick Tofiq Musayev, man. I think Tofiq Musayev is going to get the victory here. Listen, I may switch my prediction later on in this fight, depending on what I see. But I think this is going to be an absolute banger, guys. Both fighters, I think that it's going to be a close fight. Listen, man, I'm not saying what's going to happen in this fight, because this fight could just go either way. I think it's going to be leading up to the judge scorecards of what the judges actually see coming into this fight. Give me Tofiq Musayev to win this one by a decision. Next up here in the lightweight division, over on the main card, staying in the lightweight division, Miloš Janičić versus Noah Gugnon. This fight is an interesting fight. Two fighters making their debuts. What I've seen from Noah Gugnon, what we saw in his fight with Bruno Nunes, that he has a good submission base, is very good when it comes to the ground, does have some nasty punches, nasty elbows, good Muay Thai style, does have very good Muay Thai style, does know how to mix it up with the ground and pound, and he's only 25 years old, and I definitely see this being an absolute banger. Miloš Janičić, he beat Ekbar, whoever this guy is, Jolison Nascimentos, and just what I've seen from him, and most recently taking out Alex Oliveira, which I'm not mistaken, this is the same guy, which if I'm not mistaken, this guy, Alex Oliveira, I think he was, if I'm not mistaken, this is the guy who was once in the UFC. The guy, Alex Oliveira, had about 21 fights in the UFC before he was cut, so he had a lot. So technically, he's already had some experience with a guy who used to be in the UFC, unlike Noah Gugnon. And Miloš Janičić, man, I think, man, this is a tough fight, man, for Noah Gugnon, man. Honestly, Noah Gugnon could be stepping into a firefight here, because Janičić, man, his last few opponents, he's just been consistently knocking them out. Last time he lost, if I'm not mistaken, was almost about 2019, if I'm not mistaken, about a decade, almost half a decade ago. And ever since then, he's been on an 8-fight winning streak. If I'm not mistaken, he's done some boxing matches, if I'm not mistaken. And I just think that he's fought in the better competition than Gugnon outside on the original scene. Both fighters are going to make this a fight. I definitely think the one thing I like about Noah Gugnon is that Noah Gugnon has these nasty elbows. He's a very slick Muay Thai fighter, has a good grappling base with some nasty ground and pound, where I could definitely that being a lot of trouble for Miloš coming into this fight. With Miloš, man, he's good everywhere. Has good striking, a good grappler, good kicks, good elbows as well. I think he's just stylistically a good fighter overall. But Noah, man, there are some. I think sometimes Janičić does leave himself open a little bit throughout the fights. I think that Noah could definitely take advantage of. But Noah, he's still quite young, and he also has some things that are exposed to his style. Like also sometimes he keeps his body. Like sometimes he's open to rib shots, and sometimes he has a close fight, but he loses off by points because he gets hit consistently. He does have good head movement. Honestly, this fight could go either way, bro. I just think I'm not saying this is a big step up for Noah because this is both fighters making their debut, so it's not necessarily the bad. I think both fighters are going to be huge prospects in the UFC. But I think that how I see this fight playing now, I think if a few things Noah needs to do, he needs to move that head, land those elbows that he has, try and get this fight on his ground, get his back, and try and land those ground and pound fights to finish him early. Miloš, I just think he needs to take away and destroy that body early, land those kicks to the rib cage, land those kicks to the body, and just absolutely attack him everywhere in this fight and make it a fire fight. I just think that this is going to be. I'm not saying this is going to be a very bad match. I'm here for Noah Gugnon, but I think if Miloš Janičić is putting the pressure on him early, just basically trying to hurt him at early, I think it could be a bad night for Noah Gugnon. And this is also a mad tough fight to predict, man. I just think that this fight could go either way, man. Noah's so young. He has good fight IQ. He knows how to stay calm in those difficult situations in the fight. But just like Miloš Janičić is just so good everywhere. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm going to pick Janičić. I think he's going to get the second round corner stoppage. I think from Noah Gugnon being too bloody up in this fight, I think the corner is going to have to stop this fight. But I just think that that's what's gonna happen. I think Noah Gugnon is just gonna get hit way too much coming into this fight. I just think that Miloš is just gonna be the better fighter overnight, but I think it's gonna be a pretty fun fight while it lasts. I just think that Noah Gugnon is gonna take too much damage and take too much damage in this fight. Give me Miloš Janičić by TKO knockout. Next up here, we got up here in the middleweight division. Vlasto Chapo versus Gilbert Urbina. Listen, man, I don't know why Urbina is still in the UFC, and I do not know why he's on this card. I'm going to go with Vlasto Chepo. I think he's going to get the knockout here. I just don't see Urbina winning this fight, nor do I see him staying in the UFC. I know he's fought some solid competition. Losing to Brian Battles, not bad. Orson Charcy, not bad. All right. Chuck Buffalo, aka Charles Racket, not a bad loss either. Uros Medić, not bad. He's lost to some good competition. Brian Battles, Charles Racket, and Uros Medić, who's fighting the main event. They're not bad losses. I just don't think that he's just meant for the UFC. I think his style was also a little bit too awkward. It's also his style too, the way he fights too. I just think that Vlasto Chepo is just gonna be the better fighter overnight. Yeah, give me Vlasto Chepo to win this one by knockout. Yeah, so that's how I see it playing out. Give me Vlasto by knockout. Next up, we stay in the middleweight division. Dusko Chijorovic versus Robert Valentin. I think this is a more interesting fight than what you guys actually think. Listen, I know some of you guys are saying, why the heck is this fight on the main card? Listen, man, I'm kind of shocked too. But that just because this fight's on the main card does not mean that it's not a banger fight. Robert Valentin He had that win over Zoran Dodd. Then getting to UFC, losing to Ryan Loder, who does hit pretty hard, but definitely not UFC material. Tori Finis, not a bad loss either. Turbo Gartier, which Turbo Gartier is probably one of the best or either the best prospect in the division. And then got his first win beating Julian LeBlanc, which is a decent win. I did predict Julian LeBlanc to win this fight, and I kind of regret picking that decision because Julian LeBlanc just kind of a bum. And then Trutrovic, his last 5 fights, beating Jordan Wright, which I guess is all right. They went on a 3-fight losing streak, losing a CLD, which was because of a knee injury. And CLD, obviously one of the best prospects in the UFC right now. Mansour Al-Dumalk, I know Mansour Al-Dumalk just lost to Yurshri Belguri, but I think that Mansour Al-Dumalk is still one of the best prospects in the UFC. Losing to Zach Reese. I know Zach Reese lost to Ryan Gandra, but I think that was a decent win. I mean, decent loss. Then beating Jose Medina. Now, Jose Medina, I've already said this a million times. Jose Medina is a cam, but I guess that was a good win after being on a 3-fight losing streak. So both fighters, are both 2-3 in their last 5, and both fighters just came off a win after both being on a 3-fight losing streak. So that's one thing that they both have in common. But on the feet, both fighters are pretty decent. I think that Dusko Trudovic is the better fighter on the feet. I think both fighters are pretty good grapplers. I think Robert Valentin's the better grappler here, but Dusko definitely has some decent grappling. I just think that as of recently, Dusko hasn't been looking that good. And Robert Valentin, he did it all right against Tori Finis. I think he went 2 rounds with Arturo Garcia, and that's not really what happens with fighting a guy like Arturo Garcia. So he's done not bad. But for Drusko, he hasn't been really doing that good in his last few fights as of recently. His last 3 losses, actually. Even that fight, but his last 2 wins were all right. So were Robert Valentin's. I just think that Robert Valentin is stylistically the better grappler in this fight. And I'm going to favor Robert Valentin. I think he gets a 3rd-round submission. He possibly gets a decision over here. I think it's going to be a pretty competitive fight. I think Drusko's definitely going to give him trouble on the feet. I can never see Drusko knocking him out early on in this fight. I just think towards the late. I just think that Robert Valentin is not going to try and just strike with him. I just think that he couldn't take down Arturo Garcia because Arturo Garcia is just too big, too huge. Just hits like a truck. So for if you guys actually think that Drusko hits pretty hard and he couldn't take down Arturo Garcia, you're absolutely wrong for that. Arturo Garcia would knock out Drusko in 30 seconds, and so would Ryan Loder and Tori Finis. Man, none of those guys would lose to Drusko. Maybe Tori Finis at most, but I think Robert Valentin is just going to be the better fighter overall. Give me Robert Valentin to win this one by a submission. Next up here in the heavyweight division, Martin Tybura versus Alexander Rakic. We got Alexander Rakic making his debut. This is a very interesting fight. Um, if we look at their last 5 fights, man, we had Rakic. Last win was about 5 years ago, beating Thiago Santos, who I think at that time was already past his prime. And then he went on a 4-fight losing streak, had that very bad leg injury over Sean Blahovic, which was unfortunate. Um, Losing to Jiri Prohaska as a comeback fight, and dang, I feel like he got messed up right there. Having your comeback fight be Jiri Prohaska, bro. Man, I just feel mad bad for him. And then lost to Magomed Ankalaev, which he just beat Bogdan Guskov in a pretty dominant decision. Not decision, knockout. Then getting knocked out by Osman Mirzkanov. I know Osman just lost to Paulo Costa, but to be very clear, I think that stylistically at that point Rakic was just done. Martin Tybura, on the other hand, um, losing to Sergio Spivak in the rematch, which is all right. I think Sergio Spivak is kind of having a downfall. Just had a robbery win over Ante Dillashaw. Beating Jonathan Deans, which was all right. Jonathan Deans not no top fighter. beating McParkin, not a top fighter either. Was undefeated, but not a top fighter. Went on a 2-fight losing streak, getting knocked out by Ante Dillashaw. Speaking of Ante Dillashaw, and then losing to Taro Fortune, which we just saw Taro Fortune break his rib and just lost to Rizvan Kuniev. So these aren't bad losses. I think Taro Fortune is a good fighter. I just think that stylistically, Kuniev was just too big. I did predict him to win the fight though. I predicted Martin Tybura to beat Taro Fortune, which I think I regret picking that prediction. But I think this is a 50-50 fight. Alexander Rakic, at this point of his career, I think this could definitely be very bad moving up to heavyweight at this point of your career, especially that your last 3 out of your 4 losses all came by TKO or knockout. And especially the way he got knocked out by Azamat Murzakanov, man. If you got knocked out by Azamat Murzakanov like that, man, and you're trying to move up to heavyweight, man, I see that being very bad. And I know the heavyweight division is kind of off, but all of them still hit very hard, if you couldn't tell. Listen, I know that, Martin Tybura got a knockout, but listen, man, the way he beat Jonathan Deans and that Dr. Stoppage, that definitely could happen to Alexander Rakic coming into this fight. And Martin Tybura has knocked people out before, and he's a good grappler. His grappling is so good because he's so big. He's just very big, and that he manages to pin people down depending on they have no grappling. I don't think Rakic's grappling is all that. He's mainly a good striker, and this is where the problem is I see here. We got to see this fight at the weigh-ins. I also just think that Rakic is gonna have a lot of trouble with the grappling here in this fight. Martin Tybura is a pretty solid grappler, but I get again the last time Martin Tybura got a elite win was beating Sergey Spivak the first time, and I also think that was like 5 years ago. So both fighters haven't won a elite fight in about like both in 5 years. So that's just the thing. It's just the thing that Rakic has still been fighting top fighters when so has Martin Tybura. Spivak is still top, even though I know he's on a downfall. Dillashaw still top, even though that he just got robbed against Sergey Spivak. Taro Fortune still kind of a top dude, even though he just lost to Kuniev. So some of these fighters are still top. There's probably not the best stages right now, but still top fighters. So, most previously also, I think he also lost to Tom Aspinall as well. Tom Aspinall, the world champion. So yeah, he's just been losing to fighters. He's just been losing to both fighters have been losing to the best of the best, and both fighters aren't at the good stage of their career. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead. I think I'm a favorite, the underdog here. I'm going Martin Tybura. This fight can go either way. I think depending on how Rakic looks on the scale, if he weighs in like 225, 230, I think he's gonna be a pretty small heavyweight because he's not that big. Because in reality, Rakic isn't the hugest light heavyweight. I don't think he's gonna be very big. I don't think he's gonna be that big of a heavyweight coming into this fight. If he does what Alex Pereira did and weighs in bigger than his opponent, then most likely he's going to lose. But if he's pretty small, I can definitely see him giving him some trouble. I got Martin Tybura winning this one by decision, possibly a knockout. Give me Martin Tybura to win this one by decision. Next up, in the light heavyweight division, we got up here the co-main event, Jan Blachowicz facing Navajo Sterling. Navajo Sterling taking this fight on short notice when it was originally supposed to be the rematch between Bogdan Guskov and Jan Blachowicz. Looking at their last 5 fights, Navajo Sterling, listen, man, I wasn't really impressed by his first 3 performances in the UFC, and I haven't been really impressed of Navajo Sterling. A decision went over Turco, and Turco is just a can. Ivan Urslan, a can. This went Bellato, a can. Well, Bellato's slightly a can, but he's pretty good. Had a solid performance against Bruno Lopez, And then most recently beat Ian Cubalata, which I predicted him to lose this fight, and he was getting dominated that entire time until Ian Cubalata made that mistake. So a lot of you guys think that Navajo Sterling is just improving, but he's not improving at all, man. Even though on the feet, I know he was doing good against Ian Cubalata, but the reality is he was just getting dominated that entire fight. Even in that fight with Bruno Lopez, man, Bruno Lopez was shooting some takedowns, and Navajo Sterling was having a lot of struggle in that fight. So I have not been too high on Navajo Sterling as a prospect. But Jan Blachowicz, he's in a tight situation right now. He's still one of the top fighters, being at 43 years old. Um, Beating Alexander Rakic, and that was the last time he won a fight because of that due to that leg injury. But in reality is, a lot of you guys like to hate on that, but in reality is he was winning that fight before that even happened. I had a draw with Ankalaev. He got robbed. I'm gonna say that I'm gonna be straight up real with you guys here. He got rigged. In reality is he got rigged, man. I think that Jan Blachowicz should have won that fight. But listen, I think even if he won that fight, though, I think he would have lost it to his next title fight. Because it either would have been a rematch with him and Glover Teixeira, or he would have fought Jamal Hill. I think he would have lost. He would have the same thing would have happened in that Glover rematch, and I think he would have just got knocked out by Jamal Hill. Then went on a 2-fight losing streak, losing to Alex Pereira. And listen, man, I didn't think that was a split decision. Listen, he definitely was giving Alex Pereira trouble with the wrestling, but I think it was a competitive unanimous decision. I don't think it was that of a split fight. And then, got robbed against Carlos Ubler, bro. I don't care what any of you guys say. He got robbed. That was a big robbery. I don't think that Carlos Ubler won that fight. I thought the 2 rounds that were close, which was the first and third round, I thought he won both those rounds. The only round that Carlos Ubler had a lot of success in was that second round. And had a draw with Bogdan Guskov. And at first, I thought Bogdan Guskov won that fight. Yet again, my TV was lagging when I watched that fight. My TV was lagging when I was watching the fight. So I ended up just looking back at the fight, and then I realized I thought Bogdan Guskov lost his fight here. And Bogdan Guskov just kind of gave up a little bit against Ankalaev, man. Didn't really try at all coming into that fight. Apparently, he didn't watch the tape at all, which was very surprising because it was a 2-week notice. You had some time to look at the tape. I just feel like he just didn't want to. So I just think that this is going to be a bad matchup here for Navajo Sterling. Navajo Sterling, man, he's a kickboxer, comes from City Kickboxing, if I'm not mistaken. And Jan Blachowicz technically already beat the best fighter in that gym, apparently, which is most likely Carlos Ubler. So I don't know, man. Do I think Jan Blachowicz captures that world title again? Absolutely, man. Listen. That may be diabolical. I think he beats Jan Blachowicz in a rematch. I think he beats Ankalaev. I don't think he beats a Jiri Prohaska or like a Khalil Roundtree or something, like a Khalil Roundtree or like a Paulo Costa. But he beats like fighter like Ankalaev and a Carlos Ubler, man. Those fighters are just technical strikers. I feel like fighters that would beat him are aggressive fighters. Navajo Sterling's a pretty technical fighter, and I think this is where Jan Blachowicz is going to have a lot of success. And I'm going to go with Jan Blachowicz. I think Jan Blachowicz is going to absolutely brutally beat down Navajo Sterling to a 30-27 fight. I don't think this fight that close. And guys, this is my lock of the week. I know you guys like there's multiple locks of the weeks that you can do. Why would you go for this one? Because Jan Blachowicz knows how to deal with these technical fighters like Navajo Sterling. And he's the better wrestler. Navajo Sterling's wrestling is not that good, guys. I think Jan Blachowicz is just going to absolutely run through him, man. I'm kind of low-key surprised. I'm not surprised Sterling's the favorite, but I'm just not been impressed by Sterling at all. Give me a Jan Blachowicz to win this fight by decision, possibly a brutal knockout. But next up here is our main event, Uroš Medić versus Daniel D. Rodriguez. This is a tougher fight than what some of you guys think. Because if we look at the last 5 fights, D. Rodriguez, well, technically his last 6 fights, he's 3-3, which they haven't been bad losses. Losing to Ian Machado Gary. Ian Machado Gary, the #1 contender, and will be the new welterweight champion. He will be Islam Makhachev. Losing to Calvin Gastelum. Listen, man, I think Calvin Gastelum came in a little bit overweight in that fight. But then he went on a nice 3-fight winning streak, beating Alex Moreno, which was, I don't think it was that close, though. Beating Santiago Paz and Isbio. And for what I'm seeing is that he's just facing a lot of vets. And then we saw he beat Kevin Holland about a year ago. I know he just came from that jail in Mexico for some elite thing that he did not know was illegal in Mexico. But I don't know, man, because when you come back out of jail, and I think he was in jail a few days, like a few weeks after beating Kevin Holland. Then we got Uros Medić, who beat Tim Means, who has a lot of experience as well. Punil Serrano. Listen, man, I don't know how the heck you did not beat Punil Serrano, bro. And then, beat Gilbert Ubrino, which we just mentioned it. We just predicted his fight. Muslim Sadikov has a lot of experience. Jeff Neal, man. I predicted Jeff Neal to win this fight. And Jeff Neal got knocked out very quick. And listen, man, I think D. Rodriguez could survive the early rounds. I know he got head kicked by Ian Machado Gary, but Ian Machado Gary is a very long, ragey fighter. And I don't think Uros Medić is going to do any better than what Daniel Rodriguez actually did in that fight. It's just the problem is here that Daniel Rodriguez kind of is a sloppy striker. And I definitely see him getting catch off guard in this fight. We saw that against Calvin Gastelum. Calvin Gastelum kind of just timed the shots pretty beautiful. And I think Uros Medić has a lot of knockouts on his resume. I definitely see this be a tough time. I think the longer this fight goes, the more this is going to be a very tough fight for Uros Medić. Both fighters have never been in a 5-round fight before. So I'm curious to see how I think the cardio could definitely be a big play coming into this fight with both fighters. If Daniel Rodriguez just starts attacking him aggressively on the feet, he's going to get knocked out. But I think that Daniel Rodriguez is the better wrestler in this fight. But I don't think Daniel Rodriguez has the greatest fight IQ ever. Because low key, Kevin Holland, that was a good loss. But it was a pretty competitive fight. Competitive win. Santiago Paz needs to be. We just saw him lose to Sam Patterson, guys. Listen, man, I think at this point, I feel like Daniel Rodriguez and Uros Medić could definitely go either way. I don't think Uros Medić has the greatest grappling. I know, but even though he only got submitted by Machechik Orbal does have some very good underrated grappling. 3 things I say that these fighters need to do to win this fight. For Daniel Rodriguez, the first thing is he needs to have his defense. He needs to move his head and use very good defense at all times. One punch from Uros Medić and it can knock him out. And we saw what he just did to Jeff Neal. And he knocked him out quicker than what Carlos Practice did, man. And number 2 is he needs to land those knees to the body. He has some good knees. Some very good clinch knees to the body. And I think that could definitely slow down a guy like Uros Medić. And number 3 is just use that wrestling and just try and survive the fight. The longer this fight goes, the more I would favor Daniel Rodriguez. But that all depends on how he comes in this fight. If he comes in wanting to make it an entertaining fight, I'm going to just go with Uros Medić on this one, guys. But if he's actually planning on using fight IQ, I could definitely see him winning this fight. It just depends on how his defense is at all times in this fight. But who do I got winning this fight, guys? I'm going to go with Uros Medić. I was originally going to go with Daniel Rodriguez, but I think that Medić is just the better fighter overall, guys. I think that those kicks are going to be pretty devastating. I think that stylistically, the power is going to be a little bit way too much for Daniel Rodriguez coming into this fight. But that's going to be the end of the video, you guys. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. If you guys enjoy my content, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. Turn on notifications when you guys want to see when I upload. Comment down below. Who do you guys think wins these fight between Medić and Daniel Rodriguez? Comment down below if you guys think that Rodriguez can pull the upset. But I'm going to go with Uros Medić by knockout. See y'all in the next one. And yeah, I'm out. Peace.